Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen tries to steal my boyfriend while on our vacation. After that, guy messes with his ex-girlfriend at the bar until her new boyfriend shows up. And after that, get my priorities straight? No problem. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to steal someone's boyfriend. No thanks. You already drive me insane, Mr. Reddit. I don't know how I could deal with two of you. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen tries to steal my boyfriend while on our vacation. So my friends and I are going on a trip next month to Miami, Florida. We've been planning it for about a month now, and originally it was going to be a float trip within our state, and with 16 people we go to college with. Before everyone screeches about the lockdown, we've all had our shots. One of my friends in particular, Jay, has a very specific work schedule. We worked around this and got days of the week that are less convenient for the majority because we wanted to include her. She refuses to take off work for the trip despite going on multiple week-long vacations with other people since April. Still though, we did our best to accommodate her. On New Year's, we all stayed on campus for the break, so her, myself, two friends, and my boyfriend, A, all spent the night together drinking and playing games in my apartment since my roommate had gone home. That night, she made a passing comment about how she thought my boyfriend was hot and she would love for him to be her New Year's kiss, and I chalked it up to drunken confessions and ignored it since she hadn't made any moves. At one point, she did fall into his lap, but he removed her quickly. Now for this trip, we had to seek out accommodations. After changing the initial float trip because I and our other friend, S, wanted to go to Florida, we downsized our group to just me, S, J, A, and A's friend. We were looking at a 3-bedroom apartment on Airbnb with enough beds to have everyone sleeping comfortably. While discussing sleeping arrangements with S and J, J decided to half-joke about how she wanted to sleep in the same room as A, and that I wouldn't be mad since we've gone on breaks to see other people before. Note: A and I have been dating for 3 years at this point. We've broken up to see other people once before in our first year when we went on summer break because our hometowns are too far away to see each other. We were 18 and 19 at the time and haven't done it again since. I expressed discomfort at this joke and she kept brushing it off, but I really don't trust her. While talking with S privately, she also said it was a bit weird. I ended up shifting the dates of our stay and plane tickets by 1 day, which would prevent Jay from being able to attend due to her work schedule. At first, I just said it was because these were cheaper dates, but she seems to have picked up immediately that it was done because of what she said. She's now calling me a manipulative jerk. S said it was a bit unexpected, but she understands why I did it as well as why Jay is mad. A has no idea because we haven't involved him in the situation. He just knows the new dates and is fine with them. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her friend? Please let us know. Why would you even be friends with someone like her in the first place? It's obvious she doesn't respect your relationship. The only thing to do with people like her is cut them out of your life. Guy messes with his ex-girlfriend at the bar until her new boyfriend shows up. Oh, what a satisfying Friday I've had. I work in a sports bar and grill in a reasonably small town. We're a popular hangout for the local college kids as one of the only spots with a full bar and some decent grub. I love this because, contrary to popular belief, young people are usually the better tippers and just all around more pleasant to their servers than the older crowd. I don't know if it's because they've worked service jobs more recently or if they were just raised better, but it's noticeable and I really enjoy serving most of them. One drawback though is that they're certainly more dramatic than the older crowd. Usually if my middle-aged patrons bump into someone they know, there's a quick hello and it's done. With these college kids, it's often either the best thing ever to spot your friends out and they get loud and excitable, or there's some sort of rift between the groups and they get loud and excitable. For example, we had a college-aged couple that came in a bunch almost every weekend that then split up. I'd see the guy from time to time getting loaded with his buddies, but the girl stopped coming in altogether. I figured she only ever came because he was bringing her there. Friday, we were having a ladies' night and she comes in with a small group of girls. There were maybe 5 altogether. They sat at a booth and ordered some cheap drinks and kept to themselves. Fast forward like an hour, this guy and his buddies come in. Without realizing, they take seats at the bar directly adjacent to this girl in her booth. I didn't recognize them as the couple at first, but the guy spotted her, and let's just say it became immediately clear who left who, despite what he said. He started in with all these passive-aggressive and loud comments to his pals about how he was glad he had dropped her and she was weighing him down, looking desperately over his shoulder, hoping that she had overheard him. She didn't, or if she did, she ignored him. He kept going with the insults for another moment or two before he got into some really mean stuff about her specifically, and the bartender told him he had to keep it down because he was bothering people. The night went on, and all parties involved got more drunk, his a lot more than hers, but she and her friends ignored him. Eventually, they got up to go dance, and he was quick to follow. I was lingering around, bringing people drinks and keeping tabs to be sure nothing escalated. This poor girl, he just wouldn't leave her alone. The especially crazy thing is he alternated between insulting her and begging her to take him back. I caught, "I never wanted to be with you in the first place. I was with all my exes while we were together. And you'll never do better than me, so you should take this chance while you have it. We can start over. I forgive you," from this pathetic guy in the same string of conversation. She kept blowing him off, and her friends who were taking notice kept breaking it up and relocating themselves. I was seconds away from having our bouncer spring him, but he seemed to cool off. That only lasted until she came to the bar, not anywhere near him, mind you, to get herself another drink. He starts saying all this stuff about, "You think anyone will ever want you like that? You can have me, or you can have nothing. And I don't even want you. You were the worst decision I ever made. I don't even know why I'm giving you this chance." And on, until he's cut off by, "What are you saying to my girl, bro?" A towering guy sat down, put his arm around her, and was all like, "Sorry I'm late, babe. Practice kept dragging. Can I help you?" He was 10 times more put together, better spoken, better dressed, way less sad and terrifying than the guy who had been bothering her all night. The pathetic one was so drunk at this point that he didn't recognize he was outmatched and started to launch into this incoherent screaming of, "She's a jerk, and you better not touch her, 'cause she's mine." To which the towering, calm guy stood up and took his jacket off and said, without raising his voice, "Oh, so we have a problem?" The guy's friends noticed the situation and came to collect him at this point, just before one of our staff could intervene. But this new guy followed him over to his friends. He got right in his face and said, "If you have a problem with her, you have a problem with me, so I think it's time to bounce." Drunk guy wasn't having any of it, but his friends were smarter, or at least more sober, and knew they didn't want trouble. Once they were gone, new guy went back over to this girl and says, "Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Isaiah. Sorry to get all involved like that. I hope I didn't overstep. It's just, I could not listen to another second of that. Seriously, that guy is scary. That's why I went with the boyfriend thing instead of just saying, 'Hey, you suck, time to go.' I've got 3 sisters, and he set off all of my alarm bells." I was wondering who'd bring a date to ladies' night. They had never met. He was just a stranger who had stepped in to protect her. They chatted a bit, and he walked her out. They were back here for a first date today. Have you ever had a crazy ex who wouldn't leave you alone? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. "Oh, you don't even want to know the things Kevin used to say to me. You're so much better than him, Reddit boy." Get my priorities straight? No problem. So in 2018, I was a freshman in college, and after being unemployed for a month, I took a job at a major sports department store where they don't wear blue. So my store manager, who we'll call Daniel, was a major jerk. He'd make crude jokes that would get him reported to HQ, gossip about employees to other ones, and generally favor the men, which I'll explain. So I worked at this store for nearly a year, and the turnover rate was abysmal. They'd hire many people who were still in high school and expected them to devote 20 hours a week, which of course was not what they had signed up for, as many wanted about 12 to 15 since they were involved in extracurricular activities. However, Daniel showed no remorse and would often drive people to quit by either dropping their hours to less than 5 or hiking them up to 30, knowing that they couldn't work them, which often left us understaffed. The store was attached to a mall, so we got a lot of petty traffic that would turn into actual sales. However, due to the lack of training by Daniel and his poor oversight in appointing people to train new hires, the customer service in the store was falling dramatically, which halted sales, which led to a decrease in merchandising. The store was a $12 million store when I started, but had fallen to $8 million in a few months because HQ was losing money by stocking a poorly managed store. Daniel took out his frustration on the staff, and here's where the malicious compliance starts. Daniel was on a good reviews crusade and often demanded us to comply with the customer, even if they were dead wrong, just so they'd leave a good review. I worked in footwear, and there's nothing like the anger that arises when you tell someone that oh-so-popular shoe that they desire is out of stock in their size. Because a customer got upset with me over their size being out of stock, I was charged with cleaning the bathrooms. I never did this, because like the overachiever I am, I learned how to work in multiple departments without getting a raise. Thus, Daniel was a wee bit appreciative and never asked me to clean it. Now, I am easily disgusted. The mere thought of rotten foods or bugs or anything I deem ungodly deplorable with me gets me dry heaving. And I explained this to Danny Boy, but he replied with, "Just get it done." So me and Brent went to clean the men's restroom, since it was a two-person job, and might I mention that Brent's disgustometer is also not tolerant. So we sprayed Febreze, took out the trash, and ran out of there for our lives, leaving the dirty mirrors, toilet paper floors, and stained walls untouched. I came in the next day and was told that I did an awful job and that I was never to clean the bathrooms again. So when Daniel asked me to do it a few weeks later, I reminded him of his instructions, and we all watched in marvel as a manager cleaned it, which he said was a big deal since it was not in his job description. But yet, it wasn't in any of ours either, since he had told many of us that the store had janitors in our interviews. But that's just a mini malicious compliance. See, I had grown tired of Daniel in my waiting months at the store. Many of my friends had quit or found better jobs. The hires got worse, and Daniel got much ruder. He attempted to show dominance at any chance he could, and even forced a "Do we have a problem here?" convo with me when I didn't rush to change into the new company uniform that was not my size because I was helping a customer, which then resulted in me getting chewed out because my figure was showing too much as a result of the medium shirt I was forced to wear. But Daniel committed to his paladin-esque crusade and denied us basic human rights in the spirit of good customer service. A pregnant coworker with a doctor's note was denied a chair while working at the register. A coworker with seething cramps was not allowed to go home, even though she couldn't stand. And another was barred from taking off to witness her daughter's prom send-off. But in contrast, a guy left his phone at home and he was allowed to not only get it, but take the rest of the day off. Another called in because of a hangover and was told to rest up and that he wouldn't receive a strike. And his favorite star boy was allowed to disappear often and be on his phone right in front of Daniel, and he didn't even bat an eye. Even the men there obliged to the notion that they were treated far better than we were. And one day, Daniel chose to single me out. Not to toot my own horn, but I am a hard worker. And Daniel took advantage of that by scheduling me my shifts in different departments and speed training me, knowing I'd catch on quickly. I even had to train new employees, though I wasn't a lead, because I got good reviews and conducted the most footwear services last year. And after I demanded a raise, my $11 an hour, 35 to 45 hours a week summer paychecks were looking nice in spite of the horrible managing. But school started up again, and I informed Daniel that I needed to return to my somber 15-hour weeks that I had last semester. He said that I was lying and that he never gave me such little hours until I hit him with a pic of the schedule that I had from March. He didn't like that chin tap and replied with, "I'll see what I can do." So next week, I see the schedule and see that not only was I scheduled from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. for inventory, but those were also my only hours. 6 hours. But I think, oh, they ain't doing your dirty KV. This is obviously a mistake. So I seek out Danley the Manly and tell him of his mistake, and he responds with, "That wasn't a mistake. You said you needed less hours." Me. Yes, but I can't work past 10 because I have school, and I just wanted to drop to about 15 to 20 hours, which is more than I did last semester. Well, everybody has to work inventory. But Lindy and Richie don't have it because they also have school. Plus, Lindy, Richie, and Michael all have more hours than me, but they're all in high school and just started working here. Daniel, noticing he's running out of excuses. Well, they are more available than you, and we award availability. If you can free up some time, then maybe we can talk in a month, but you need to get your priorities straight. You got it, dude. So, as someone who takes disrespect with a pillar of salt, I considered quitting right then and there. But my anxiety kicked in and I began to worry about cash flow. So I went home on my break and complained to my family, and my mom so eloquently expressed, "Just quit this darn job if you got this darn stressed. It ain't like you got a family to feed." So I took my single, no kid having, empty bellied butt up there and worked the last 2 hours of my shift. The air in the building hit differently, knowing I wouldn't have to spend more time in it awake than I did my own home. I was calm, cleaned the footwear deck efficiently, and made sure I was the last to clock out. As I approached Daniel at the exit, I said, "So yeah, this will be my last day here. I got my priorities straight, and school is my number one. I recently got an internship there, and I'll just go there because they are more accommodating to my needs as a student. Thanks for the time here. Sucks that we couldn't work it out." And with that, I watched his face turn white. And he said something about not being able to work for the company again due to my lack of a 2 weeks notice. Didn't care, was never going to work there again, and now every time I come to the mall and he happens to see me, he doesn't look me in the eyes, speak to me, and rushes away from the counter so he doesn't have to ring me up. You got what you wanted, Dan. Some follow-up. Dan got flack for doing me wrong, and my ex-team lead chewed him out for it. I'm still friendly with her to this day. And while the internship I went to didn't last long, it helped me get the great one I have now. Edit 2. I was 18 at the time and just lucky to get out. I didn't know the highways and byways about reporting and such. I did write some reviews on Yelp and Glassdoor and whatnot, but I was just happy to move on. I do believe that both good and bad comes around via divine intervention. So I'm sure he got, or is currently getting, his butt whooped. Have you ever had a manager who treated you horribly? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for wanting to move away and not looking after my parents? I, 27, female, have 2 older siblings, 41 female and 39 male, who have taken advantage of my parents' kindness for years. My parents have tried to help set my siblings up because they were high school dropouts and didn't know what they wanted to do in life. They opened up restaurants and bailed them out of debt, only to get into bigger debt later on. My sister has finally grown up and has a good business now, but she spends too much. She tried to borrow $50,000, but I knew she wouldn't pay me back, so I said no. She then tried to make me feel bad by saying I was a horrible sister. My brother is still an idiot and has racked up $500,000 in debt and sends his letters to my parents' house thinking that they'd bail him out again. Sadly, my parents are in no condition to work anymore due to injuries. I didn't dare ask for financial help from my parents because they were severely stressed from my siblings, so I went on benefits when I went to university. Every time I saved up a few thousand, a debt collector would come knocking because my brother was severely late on payments. So every time the debt collectors came, I paid what I had saved over and over again while I was studying because I felt sorry for my parents. When I graduated, I had to move for work and came up with an agreement with my parents where I paid in advance for their mortgage and they paid me back in a lump sum, almost $30,000, when I came back. 18 months later, I came back and they did not keep their end of the agreement. They tried to justify their actions by saying that they were leaving their life insurance and house with a large mortgage to me when they pass on. I was depressed for a long time because that money was to help with living expenses when I go back to study. Fast forward now, my parents told me they will be canceling their life insurance as they can no longer afford it. I said that's fine, but then asked them, which one of your 3 kids has caused you the most grief financially? To which my mom answered, your brother. So I said to get him to look after you and that it's their fault for investing in the wrong kid. Now they're mad at me, saying that it was a waste raising me because I'm not a dutiful daughter. To which I retaliated by saying that they stole the money that was meant for studying from me. My mom tried to downplay this and said it's in the past and that I should let it go. I'm planning to move away, even to a different country, and go low contact. Despite this, I'm even willing to send a small amount of money to them once in a while, which they probably won't even appreciate because they are not grand gestures like my sisters. So, am I the jerk? Edit 1. From the $30,000 incident, I stopped financially helping my family, which was about 7 years ago. As for the debt collector's part, it happened when I was a naive and very sheltered teenager. My brother pressured my mom to take some of the loans out in her name. I helped out because my parents were both depressed. Also because I was scared that it could escalate to us losing our home. Edit 2. I am financially and mentally okay. I just wanted to know if I'm the jerk for moving out and not wanting to look after my parents in their old age which will be the end of this year when I buy a house. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you keep looking after your parents or not? Please let us know. They made their bed, now they get to lie in it. I'm literally pointing to the law. You guys want a story about a person with a service dog who doesn't understand how service dog laws work? Of course you do. I checked in a lady a week ago who said she had a service animal. Okay, cool. No issues until today when the lady called me today to say she didn't want housekeeping in her room at all during the week because of her dog, and she and her husband were going to be at work. I clarified that she meant the dog would be left unattended, and she confirmed this. Me: I'm sorry, ma'am, but if it's a service dog, it does need to be with you at all times. You can't leave it unattended. It has to be under your control. That is the law. Lady: it's a registered service animal. Me: again, it's in the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the law that makes provisions for service animals, and the dog has to be under your control. You cannot leave it unattended in the room. Lady: my husband works next door. He can come and check on it. That's not really the issue, ma'am. If it's not an animal that you need with you at all times, it's not considered a service animal, and you will have to pay the pet fee. He's registered as a service animal with the government. Fun fact: registering your service animal is entirely voluntary, and there's no need for it because you need no documentation for a real service animal. There are a lot of predatory companies with .org at the end of their website address who want you to believe otherwise. Me: ma'am, if you're going to leave your dog unattended, you're going to have to pay for the pet fee. Fine, I'll pay it, but I want it back. Me: no, it's a fee, not a deposit. So she said she'd come talk to me in person, and I pulled up the frequently asked questions about service animals and printed out the sheet with the relevant information and highlighted it while I waited for her. She came and tried to argue with me. I said no, the law specifically says you cannot leave a service animal unattended in a hotel room, and held up the paper for her. Karen: no, not everyone needs their service animal all the time. Me: then it's not covered by the ADA. Now she's holding up her service dog registration card. I have his ID right here. Me: and I have the law right here. You can't leave a service dog unattended in a hotel room. If you want to leave him in the room, that's fine, but you will have to pay the pet fee. I don't know where you got that, but I know the law. I work in the medical field. Me: I know the law also. I got this from the federal government's website. I'd be happy to print out the entire frequently asked questions for you so you can read it in full for yourself. I was told that he could be left unattended in any housing I live in. Me: I can't speak for other housing, but this is a hotel, and he cannot be left unattended in your room. So if you're going to leave him unattended, you will have to pay the pet fee. We argued a bit some more. She said she wasn't trying to argue. I pointed out that she is arguing, and ultimately she decided she would pay the fee today and talk to the GM tomorrow. She went back to her room to get her bank card, and I used the opportunity to call my boss to make sure he and I were on the same page. We agreed that she needed to pay the pet fee and that being misinformed didn't mean she didn't have to follow the rules. She came back with her bank card, and I made her sign specifically that she was agreeing to the pet fee charge. She seemed confident that she could convince my boss to give her the money back. I assume this is because she has not met my boss, who called someone a peasant lettuce farmer last week when she was mad that he opened her door 45 minutes after checkout time. In his defense, he knocked and she didn't answer. He didn't realize she was still in the room when he opened the door. She came to the desk screaming at him, and he responded in kind. I told her that I'd already spoken to my boss and that he agreed with me, but she was welcome to talk to him tomorrow as well. So we'll see how that goes, but I can almost guarantee it won't be the way she wants it to. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter she's allowed to exclude other kids at recess? This is not as serious as some of the other posts on here, but I just feel like the whole thing got blown way out of proportion. I, 34, female, have a daughter who's 8 who is in 2nd grade. By the way, her school closes 2 weeks from Wednesday. So one day last week it was raining, so my daughter's school had indoor recess, which is basically when the teachers bring a bunch of toys and board games into the classroom during recess. There's another boy in her class, I'll call him Isaac, who my daughter complains about a lot. He has made fun of her, but it seems he's kinda like that to everyone, and I thought the teachers had it under control. Well, I guess last time they had recess indoors, he took the whole bin of Legos and wouldn't let any other kids use them. But that day, he had again taken the whole bin of Legos, but my daughter went over and asked if she could use some, and he let her. The teacher noticed and praised him for sharing. Then the next day they had recess outside again, but this time it was special, I guess, because the third grade and the second grade were having recess together, which my daughter says barely ever happens. My daughter was very excited because her cousin is in third grade, and so she only wanted to play with her. They were playing hide and seek by themselves when Isaac came over and asked if he could play too. My daughter said she just wanted to play with her cousin right now, but maybe another time. He got very upset and started pulling her hair. The teacher came over to ask what had happened, and they explained. The teacher thinks that because Isaac was so nice to her by sharing Legos, that she should have said yes to playing with him. I always teach my daughter that she doesn't owe anyone anything, no matter how nice they are, and I believe it's important to teach these ideals young. But my daughter still said no, and so they got sent to mediation, which is basically where two 11-year-olds sit down with them and talk them through the conflict. But I got a call asking if I consented to the mediation, and I asked what it was for. They said my daughter got into a fight, but that doesn't sound like my daughter, so I asked for more details, and they gave the phone to the teacher who had told me what happened. I was mad. I said that it should not be the job of my 8-year-old to reward another 8-year-old for their good behavior, and she doesn't have to play with anyone she doesn't want to. It would be a different story if it was a big group of kids playing and they left one kid out, but it was just my daughter and one other kid, so I don't think it was a big deal that she said no, and I refused the mediation because I know they were going to act like their actions were equally wrong and make them both apologize. It has happened in the past. But maybe I could be the jerk for not making her include another kid and not letting her do the mediation. Edit for more info. I am not taking it up further with the school. It's almost over, and I know it will just cause more problems. For those wondering why I haven't made it a big deal before, I knew the teachers already saw him as a problem child, and every time he had been mean to her, he had been punished. Also, I realized I didn't include this, but my daughter has a lot of other conditions that come with having ACON. So after he pulled her hair, he was supposed to go to the nurse's office to make sure she was okay, specifically concerning her epilepsy. But the teacher said they had to go to the office first. She had them sit in the office for 30 minutes while they called both their parents and only let her go to the nurse after I said no. Luckily, she was fine. Edit 2. Just to be clear, I did speak about this with the principal when it first happened, but I didn't request for anyone to be punished. He did say he would look into why she was not immediately taken to the nurse. Also, the teacher doesn't know all her medical problems, so she probably didn't realize the urgency of getting her to the nurse. Am I the jerk for leaving my Zoom class because my teacher didn't care that I was in the hospital? So I, 13, female, am in the hospital because I was having some pretty bad seizures. I'm epileptic. At my school, we have PE every other day. Yesterday, I emailed my PE teacher, I'll call her Miss R, and said I'm in the hospital and I can't come to PE that day. I had done all my other classes, but my teachers usually let us keep our camera off. Also, my parents work during the day, so I was alone other than the nurses. She emailed back and said that I still had to come even if I couldn't do anything. She didn't ask if I was okay or anything. The way our Zoom PE works is we take attendance, then we fill out a sheet on the healthy things we've eaten that day, and then we exercise. I usually ride my station bike at home. When I got into the class, the teacher made me put my camera on. When I turned it on, she didn't acknowledge the fact that I was hooked up to IVs and had a wrap on my head that made me look like an egg, though I could tell all the other kids were curious. Well, then it was time for the exercise part. Didn't get up from the camera because I couldn't really exercise. Then she asked why I wasn't exercising. I replied that I'm not supposed to get up from the bed. She asked why, and I didn't want to say it in front of the whole class, so I said, I don't know. She didn't like that and said we should brainstorm things I could do. I thought it would be something like my homework for other classes, but she was suggesting things like jumping jacks or burpees. She was saying it right in front of everyone, and I was really uncomfortable. She started getting mad that I wasn't willing to work with her or being cooperative. She said if I didn't know why I couldn't get out of bed, then I probably could and just didn't know it. I just left the meeting and was so embarrassed I almost cried. Then after school, some girl that had been in my class messaged me on Instagram and asked why I left the meeting. I told her that I was uncomfortable, and she kept saying I could have just told my teacher why I was in the hospital, but I didn't want to say it in front of everyone. The teacher gave me an F for the day, even though I filled out the sheet thing. She also marked me absent from the class and emailed my mom that I wasn't participating in class. I explained what really happened to my mom, but she doesn't speak English, so there isn't much she can do. But most people seem to think I should have just said in front of the entire class why I was in the hospital. So, am I the jerk for not? Edit. Since someone in my DMs were curious, my mom only speaks Amharic. Edit 2. My doctors wrote a note to the school saying what was going on, and it was my guidance counselor's decision if I had to go to classes or not. My guidance counselor said I did have to because she didn't want to do the extra work. Edit. I'm taking a break from reading replies for the rest of the night. I will catch up in the morning. My inbox currently has over 200 replies, and it's kind of overwhelming. Come watch this video next. You're gonna love it. And huge shout out to our newest official channel member, Truckin' Sue. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means the world to us. Join as a channel member today, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make a video for you, head over to our Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.